This is Confidential Conversations. Today we have Mitchell Schaumberg with us, a composer, arranger, session musician, teacher. Yeah, all around. Yeah.
Love that.
Okay. So maybe first we can go through the film stuff because I feel like that's a mystery. How to get work scoring, how
For
are you
sure.
how did you even get into a position where you're scoring for film?
Just, I think, like so many other connections, just like knowing a friend who's like really into something that's not music related. So for me, this was this dude, Cameron, and he was super into bees, like beekeeping.
Oh, okay.
And so he decided to make this like little mini documentary about beekeeping. And, I was just like a musician playing around at the time, and he knew that I played music, so he just reached out to me. So I did this little project with him and continued to kind of reach out to me with whatever projects he had to score. So we had this feature about whales that were dying off the coast of California that was like featured in the LA Times, and then a couple of other ones that were they're all kind of environmentally focused.
So it was like a passion project in the beginning, and
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
So it's sick, and it's also like that's been really rewarding working on a project that has like a kind of great, it's like the messaging is all about conservation, about nature. So like really cool to actually be.
Yeah, it's rewarding.
Yeah, totally. It's more fulfilling than just like making a banger.
Yeah.
So,
what's your background in production?
My background in production is like, I think I started in middle school. Like I feel like my productions, like my musicality, my music skills, like far kind of outweigh my ability to produce. So
I get that.
I'm trying to kind of bridge that gap, but also like recognize where it's good when people specialize, because I think I used to have this desire to be able to just be totally self-sufficient, to be able to do everything myself.
Yeah, I get that.
And I feel like I'm realizing more and more the importance of like if someone does something, exactly.
Yeah, and I think the more people are involved, the more opportunities you are going to have to do interesting things.
For sure.
That's so cool that you met somebody and they were like, they now are doing it as a living.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
It's crazy.
Well, I feel like it's been very beneficial, like to work with artists of all sorts. Like I've collaborated with a choreographer and did like music for this like dance video that she did, which was really sick. And I have some like photographer friends. It's just like you can always gain so much music knowledge just talking to other artists who aren't in the musical medium, I feel.
Yeah. That's the thing I keep hearing over and over again is networking. Like I know it's a gross word, but it's like it's more than that. I think that we're in a relationship-based business.
Yeah. I like that way of saying it. That's
nice. And the people that you know will help you do your projects, and it benefits them too. They get to have a musician and a composer on their film, and you get to be part of this cool film. You know what I mean? Like It's a two-way street.
Totally. I feel like, I mean, like so many people, my relationship with networking is like I don't like the concept, and I'm also I find myself tending to be kind of like socially awkward or just like having social anxiety. And so I feel like that's always been a hard like thing to like get past, is like going to something to meet people.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. And I really haven't done it, and maybe that's to my own detriment, but like I do feel like when I think about my network, it's just literally just like friends.
But I think that's what it is though.
I
think you work with people you like.
For sure. And the times that I have like gone and tried to like approach something like a networking event, it doesn't work out because I don't know if it feels too insincere to me or to them, but I feel like, the times where I'm like, oh no, this is someone who's really cool and I want to be friends with them just because we're vibing and there's a connection there. Like that's so much more worth the like
collaboration.
Like that's where it's at, rather than just being like, oh, I really like what this person is doing, but for whatever reason we just don't click.
We don't click.
But I'm gonna still try to.
It takes a little bit to click sometimes.
Yeah, that is true.
Maybe I think the awkward thing with networking is that it feels like you're trying to get something out of somebody.
Yeah.
Totally. But I think it's also they can get something out of you too. Like it's a mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
I think you can create really cool projects with people that maybe you're not necessarily going to be best friends with.
This is true.
But I think if you like them as people.
This is true.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
I think it's I've been trying to go to networking events more lately, and it is awkward.
So how do you present yourself at a networking event? Like, what's your title that you assign yourself?
So it's a work in progress right now. I don't know, I kind of evaluate where I am right now. So I'm in my third term at Harris. I don't say that I'm at school. I say I'm working with a couple artists right now and helping them with their careers, because I am.
Yeah.
I'm helping them with their social media. I'm helping them figure out how to release their album. That is what I'm doing right now. I don't really talk about my art because I haven't released anything yet. And I think there is an amount of credibility to that too, where I'm like, oh, I have music. Where is it?
Yeah.
Oh, are you really an artist then? Because you haven't put it out yet. I mean, I wouldn't say that you're not an artist because you haven't put it out. I would just say that people who are putting out music might not want to work with you until you've put stuff out and they can see what you can do.
That's fair. You're like actively engaging in it.
Yeah. I just try to be me. Because there's that insincerity thing about it that's like, people can feel when you're just like, when you're being fake.
For sure.
And you can feel it too.
Yeah.
I think
that's the worst part, or that's the part that keeps me from it the most. There was a like showcase show that I went to for one of my buddies here in Toronto, and there was like all of these like I feel like the president of like Universal Canada and like all just like crazy people up in the ranks of the industry. And I went because I was like, oh, I want to support my buddy, and like all these crazy people are there. And I noticed like the first couple interactions, and this was like fresh when I got to Toronto. Like I was only here for like a week, so I was kind of out of sorts anyway. But I was like introducing myself. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm an artist, blah blah blah. And I noticed like this immediate like, it's like, to be fair, they probably get approached by artists all the time if someone knows who you are and you're like up in that level. It was just this kind of like, oh, cool,
Oh,
like, yeah, exactly. Like you want something from me immediately, blah, blah, blah. But I've also done a lot of session work, and that's what I kind of want to more focus my, my work around. And so I noticed, with some of those, once I kind of recognized that, I started introducing myself as a session musician, and then it created a conversation because it's like, oh, you have something that you can maybe offer me, blah 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 blah.
Felt less weird.
So much less weird. Because it was like, I don't know. I guess like
people are, they're nervous.
Yeah, as soon as you're like, I'm an artist, I feel like people.
They're like, how am I going to get out of this conversation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That's just interesting.
Well, and also too, I think just having genuine interest in what someone does. I want to talk to them about them because what they're doing really interests me, and I think people can feel that too.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely an angle.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I have struggled with for a while now. Of music is this thing that I love, and that, for my whole life has meant the world to me. Like, it's been my safe space. It's been, like, where I go when I'm feeling emotional. I'll just go, like, sit at the piano and play, or whatever it is. And so, kind of, in the last 5-10 years, making this shift of being, oh, I'm going to make my money from this, it's been weird, because it's like... Because it kind of takes some of the magic out of it, or it can.
Yeah, I get that.
So I've had to be kind of conscientious. But that's why in terms of the teaching I've been doing, I found that to be really wonderful and fulfilling, because it allows me to engage with music in a way that like feels like it's not just to make money, but it's like very meaningful. People. Yeah, and it's like it's all about relationships too. It's forming relationships with kids or adults or whatever it is, and imparting some of the wisdom that I've been able to get from all these places.
Well, it does bring joy to play. I think playing an instrument, it just is like it's magic. It is magic, and you're giving that to someone else, I think.
Totally. Totally. And I find like it's such a beautiful escape. Like I feel like creating. I kind of had this like mantra in my head lately where I'm like, I want to create more than I consume, because I feel like so much of my free time and a lot of people's free time is just you just consume things, whether it's like TV shows or social media content or whatever it is. So I feel like the more I can kind of be in a state of creation rather than consumption, I feel like just the happier I'll be. I
think that's fair. I think that makes sense. I feel like consuming is an escape in itself.
Yeah. When I think creation can be too, but in a good way.
It can be hard though.
Yeah.
You know? Like it's not always like flip on the TV kind of thing and you're in it, you know what I mean? It takes a little more effort.
This is true.
Yeah. I think good things take effort.
I think you're on something here. I'm getting real profound.
Yeah.
So are you an instrumentalist yourself? Do you play?
I took piano lessons for like 6 years, nice. And I had a very non-traditional teacher.
Sick. And like in a good way, or not like a?
I love them. They're great people. They're nice. Very supportive. I didn't take it as I was so busy in high school, first of all. Well, my piano teacher, I'd basically just be like, I found this sick song, or like this like classical song hits. I'm like, staccato and fugue, you know what I mean? Like, teach me how to play this. Like, I wouldn't even know what it's called. I just played it, and he'd be like, oh, let me find the sheet music on what is it, IMSLP or
okay, yeah.
And we'd be like printing it out and like I don't know. And then it gets to a point where when did you start learning music theory? Like, when did you start reading sheet music? And
I mean, like, sight reading has never been my strong suit. Let me just say that.
Okay.
I started playing when I was like 5, I think. Wow. So I started really young, and I was playing by ear primarily. So I feel like that, like, I started like actually learning theory probably in like high school. Like, I had a jazz teacher, so it was kind of jazz theory, and then continued kind of just like on my own. And then I went to Berkeley and got like a pretty thorough, music theory education there.
Yeah.
And then since like starting to teach more, it's kind of like reintroduced me to some, like, I feel like when you circle back to the basic concepts later, it like
strengthens everything else.
It totally does. Yeah.
Tightens it up, I think. When did you start writing music?
I mean, I've always loved improv based playing.
Yeah.
Like, I think coming from that jazz background, so I was making stuff up for as long as I can remember, but like really kind of truly composing probably in like high school. And, like, I remember having some like school assignments that I was like kind of bullshitting my way through by like making it a musical, project. And the teachers were like, "Oh, this is great." I was like,
I'm like stop motion, like
anything, yeah, exactly. Like, you just do something that you're passionate about, and then all of a sudden you get a good grade.
It's creative.
Yeah, exactly.
I found that I learned theory, and then I wrote music.
Oh, interesting.
And it's been kind of a block for me because I definitely had friends who would mess around on the piano or just write things or be like improvising with their friends and recording stuff when we were like 14 years old. And I'm like, I'm so jealous that you're just making stuff and you don't even know the rules.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, I know the rules too much.
Yeah. I so relate to that. After I went to like music school to get my bachelor's of music, I feel like I had to kind of relearn how to be a musician again. Like after I finished school, I was like so technically inclined, or like would be listening to music and I couldn't not hear the specific chord progression or like what was happening, and it was like,
does it take the enjoyment out a little bit?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then when it went to playing, it was like I would be thinking so much while I was playing, whereas like it used to be so much of the enjoyment, and to this day it's like so much of that enjoyment for me comes when I'm not thinking and I'm playing. Yeah. And it just kind of flows, and that it feels wonderful, So I feel like I'm not stopping myself, or I'm not like getting caught up in myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's been a hard thing to relearn and rewire.
Like the balance between the two?
Totally.
How's it changed your music creation now, the way that you're composing now?
I mean, I feel like having that like theoretical basis gives you such a, like, I like the idea of music as a language, and I feel like the theory aspect of it gives you a wider vocabulary. So like there's just like more stuff you can say, or you can like say things with more of a richness. But rules, I feel like,
so you know how to break them.
But I still think on some level music is kind of about like what you have to say in here, not in here. And so I don't think that changes too much the music that you make. I think it just gives you more of an ability to maybe like express what it is you want to express. Are you a lyricist yourself?
I'm working on that. It's like the cringiest thing I've ever done.
Me too.
Yeah. I've been working with so many artists though that write their lyrics and just put them out there so bravely that and they're great lyrics, right? Or they're not anything profound, right? Totally. And I'm like, but it's catchy, it's fun, you believe in it, and so I believe in it because you believe in it. You're so confidently saying it that I love what you're writing, so I'm just trying to have that mindset.
It's tough. I feel like lyrics feel so vulnerable to me.
Because when you write music or you compose, you can put a feeling into sound.
Totally.
But when you say it, it's like I'm saying it.
I know. It's terrifying. Yeah. So I'd much rather do instrumental music.
I get it. But you're starting to write lyrics now?
Yeah, some for my own stuff. But I mean, again, like I think that's with the session work I've done, it's nice to be able to be like, oh no, I play piano or I play keyboards, and I'm working with this artist who's like clearly a phenomenal lyricist and songwriter, and like I'm never gonna be at that level, and so I get to just come in and do my part and know that I like feel so confident in that, you know? And I get to do it well, and they're doing their thing well, and there's a bunch of people doing their thing well, and like that is very rewarding, and very easy, you know. It's like not again like kind of what we're saying, like maybe, you know, hard things are good things, but like
not always though.
It's nice to also have things where it's like, you know,
it's easy and rewarding.
Yeah, exactly.
You're good at it. Well, it is also the time you put into it made it easy.
Exactly.
You know, it wasn't always easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, I went through the production program here, and I've accepted that I don't want to engineer. I don't want to engineer my own stuff. I don't want to EQ things. I don't want to pick this. Like, I want to pick the sound, but I don't want to know how to pick the sound. I want someone else to know how to pick the sound.
For sure.
You know, that stuff's hard and not rewarding for me.
Well, it's such a different type of knowledge. It's like, so it is like such a technical skill.
Well, with scoring, it's like maybe you want a whole orchestra. I don't have the resources to have an orchestra.
Yeah.
I have to go online and have a budget and find sounds that sound kind of like they should.
Yeah.
Not completely. And then you can use those tools to make it sound more realistic, where I can be like, oh, you can change the velocity here and there to make the strings more string, you know? I don't want to do that.
I like that.
Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But some people love doing that. You know, and they find it really rewarding to do that.
Yeah. You know, for the scoring that I have done, you know, I didn't start out knowing a whole lot, and I still don't know a whole lot. And I feel like every time I finished a project, I would be so, not like upset, but I'd be like, this doesn't feel done, because now that I've gone through this process, you know, in its entirety, I can see all the things I should have done differently. And but now that I've done that a couple of times, I mean, it continues to happen where I'm like, I should have used this plugin, or I should have, you know, done this way, you know. But it's like, it's being able to learn through experience, and for me, like, having someone be like, you need to give me this thing. You know, it's great, because otherwise I'm like, I'll mess around with it, but it's like, I'm not gonna.
Well, now you can move forward.
Exactly.
And you can say that you did those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Win-win.
They're out in the world now.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do about it. And people are not hearing that you should have used a different plugin. Or maybe they are, but I don't really think they are.
Yeah,
you know?
No, totally.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a lot of value in finishing projects, which I need to work on.
Yeah. Clear out that list or whatever. Absolutely. Whatever you want to say, half-done projects.
Yeah.
Your scraps bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overflowing.
How are you going to work as a session musician?
Yeah, I mean, it's been through. That's felt like a little more of a. Well, it was interesting in Vancouver. I was like getting to know, while I was living there at the time, I was getting to know some like session musicians who were playing kind of in the live scene. Like obviously, you know, there's kind of like two different tracks to it, like whether you're playing in the studio or whether you're playing, you know, like you're doing live stuff. Yeah. And so I was kind of getting to know this crew of people who were like, they were kind of like the go-to musicians for this whole label. So they were like constantly working, and it was like so cool to see.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is kind of developing that relationship with a label, or with a number of artists within a label, where it's like, you know, if all these people are kind of in the same community and network, they're all like, oh, I need a drummer, I need a guitarist for, you know, this concert that we're doing. You know, the first people they'll go to are the people in the community and be like, oh, who did you use? I saw your show the other week. That guitarist was good. So I feel like on some level you do kind of just have to like get that first in.
Put yourself out there a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
play
then
live wherever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think finding work, right? It's like, it's who you know. It's kind of who your circle is.
I feel like being
an environment,
approachable, friendly person.
Yeah, that helps.
It's good, and I try to be that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, like I had this experience where I was playing this show with this band that I was with, and the opening act was this woman named Jocelyn Alice, who's a wonderful singer, great artist. And she came up to me and was like, hey, like, you know, I like saw you performing. I really love what you're doing on keys. And we were just kind of like chatting it up throughout the evening. Yeah. She later like hit me up to do work for her, which was wonderful. And it was this kind of thing where it was like, I didn't necessarily think that interaction was going to lead to anything. I was just like, oh no, this person is like really cool, and they're, you know, doing really well in the industry, and like it's just like I'm enjoying talking to them, and then that led to a lot of other things.
The clicking thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's again, it's just like so much more about just like human connection, being people, than it is about trying to kind of be like,
yeah. No, like get something from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's too like, why are we doing music? You know what I mean? Like we're not doing it to.
Yeah.
I mean, we are doing it. We would like to make money. That would be nice. But I think the reason we're pursuing it is because we like.
Yeah, I don't think anybody goes into music because they are like, that's where the money is.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like approaching it that way in your relationships in the industry just makes sense.
Yeah, and it's I think a hard balance because you do hear so much of people being like, oh yeah, networking is so important, and then so I think it's hard to not kind of find yourself with that mentality of like. Trying to, I
have to find people and I have to make connections.
Totally, because then it adds this like weird dimension or weird pressure where it like, you just can't kind of walk through life.
You measure your success a bit through how many people you're connected with or whatever, right? Like,
totally. It's tough too because I feel like sometimes I'll kind of judge value in terms of my own artistry in terms of like how much I like. How
valuable your connection is, like with you?
Yeah, and how valuable my own connection is to whatever I'm making. Like it's tough too because I've found myself in situations, whether it's doing session work or whatever it is, where I'm working on a project and I'm like, I don't really like this music. It's like this isn't music I would necessarily listen to. Yeah. But I'm still contributing to it. I'm still putting a part of myself into it, and so it's like. You kind of have to walk that line between like, oh, it's it's work, and so I'm gonna do my best and put myself into it. But then, it's also like you also want to work on things that like really do speak to you. But I think especially when
it's hard to be choosy.
It is, and I think it's important not to be choosy, especially as you're trying to kind of like sink your teeth in.
Well, and probably those experiences where you're working on things that you're not totally in love with, you probably still learned something.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
there's still
open your ears to new sounds too.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
things you don't necessarily listen to.
Yeah.
I think of it that way when I'm suffering. It's something that I'm not enjoying. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you teach? You're teaching piano, or are you teaching theory?
I teach piano. I teach like theory as I go. I think there's so much value in knowing how to play the piano specifically in today's like modern production world, where it's like if so many things are MIDI, being able to play in a way, and I think also not relying on quantization and like going in and dissecting a part. Like I think it's nice to be able to play in a way that you can kind of keep the feel and not really have to mess with it. And, I mean, to be fair, there are people who like do like there's an art to like programming velocity in a way. Like it's crazy. Like,
it would be nice if I could just do it though.
Yeah, 100%. But no, people can like it's amazing that kind of like the feel that people like. I'm not there.
I think if you understand the feel, you might be able to program it. But I think it really is convenient to just be able to to play your MIDI into your
and the problem is like if like I try to do it the other way, I just don't have the patience for it because I'm like, if I just do enough takes of it, I'll be able to capture it rather than like just sitting and like doing all the dragging of it used to be that like film scores, it would be whole symphonies and these beautiful arrangements, and like thinking about it in terms of it's like not only are they all real instruments, but it's all like very, very talented musicians playing each one of those lines where it's like, if you're doing a MIDI, it's like this finger is not as talented as like a whole ass person who's like been doing it their whole life, and
has that expression and emotion.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I was lucky enough to take some like I took like a class at Berkeley that was like scoring for strings. Yeah. So like I have some like kind of foundational knowledge about like how you are supposed to score for specific instruments, which is very helpful because it's like.
What do you mean when you say how you're supposed to?
Like
like traditionally make it sound the way that it would sound in an orchestra.
Yeah.
Or how
more or less. Like like
support.
Yeah, all those things where it's like, first of all, like what is the typical range for a given instrument? Like, are you programming your cello to play a note that it normally wouldn't comfortably be playing? So it's like,
So maybe it sounds unnatural and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Like you're listening back and you're like, something's not right about this
For sure.
track.
Yeah. And then also like the way like, the movement of the strings are working, like you're not supposed to have in classical music, you're not supposed to have like parallel fifths moving together. I don't know why. That's just like been a rule for like hundreds of years. Yeah. So like some of those things like that where it's just like,
That's interesting.
You wouldn't really be thinking about that unless you knew it. And it's obviously a rule that a lot of people break, but it's like if you're going for that kind of like more traditional sound, it's like, oh, well,
there are rules.
There are rules, exactly. So if anything, get in the box more.
Yeah. Well, it's what people are expecting to hear, I think.
Yeah.
You're meeting expectations.
I think there's something to be said for like being able to do the thing and then make it different. Or exactly. But.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Mitchell Schaumberg, session musician if you're looking for one, arranger, film composer, teacher of music. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Goodbye. That's it. Cool.